Hello there, warm welcome and welcome to World Panorama. I'm Tracy Shilshi, and in the next 30 minutes I'll be getting you through the top international stories of the week, what went by, and of course we'll be talking in depth of the new President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. We'll get you all that in a bit, but first, the headlines. Donald Trump takes oath as the 45th President of the United States, vows to pursue America First policies, signs executive order to minimize economic burden of Obamacare within hours of assuming office. Three years on, the search for Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 is finally suspended, but future hunt for the missing plane is not ruled out. Families of the victims, though, say that the decision to halt the search is irresponsible. Nigerian military jet mistakenly bombs the camp for displaced people in the northeast of the country. At least 50 people are killed and over 100 injured. Government apologizes, but Nigerians want action. And China sends out a stern message to the United States regarding the One China policy, says the policy is non-negotiable and any attempt to reconsider it could harm ties between the two countries. Our top story, Donald Trump has been sworn in as the 45th President of the United States, and within hours of taking oath, Trump signed an executive order aimed at minimizing the economic burden of Obamacare pending repeal. In an inaugural address that was populist, Trump gave an anti-establishment cry and vowed to pursue America First policies. The moment marks the end of an improbable journey for the property tycoon after a campaign marked by controversy.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
As the clock struck noon in America, power passed from one man to another, with Donald Trump taking over as the 45th President of the country. Barack Obama passing the baton after 8 years. Former presidents and first ladies, including George Bush and his wife Laura, as well as Jimmy Carter, were in attendance. After the ceremonial oath, Trump gave a 16-minute inaugural speech where he painted a bleak picture of his nation and the world. The 70-year-old railed against the U.S. establishment for not serving the American people adequately.
This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. We are one nation, and their pain is our pain. Their dreams are our dreams, and their success will be our success. We share one heart, one home, and one glorious destiny. The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
He spoke of abandoned factories, rampant crime, and a failed education system, pledging that his presidency would bring about change.
We will reinforce old alliances and form new ones, and unite the civilized world against radical Islamic terrorism, which we will eradicate completely from the face of the earth. At the bedrock of our politics will be a total allegiance to the United States of America. And through our loyalty to our country, we will rediscover our loyalty to each other. When you open your heart to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice.
While thousands of Trump supporters traveled across the country to witness the occasion from the National Mall, there was a crowd of protesters too. 217 people were arrested as violence broke out. 6 police officers also suffered minor injuries. Protests were also reported worldwide, including in Spain, Mexico, and London.
And throughout the city, we have seen hundreds upon hundreds of protesters who have respected our laws and made their voices heard through nonviolent acts of protest. Unfortunately, a small group of people have engaged in vandalism as well as violence against our law enforcement officers. This type of destruction and this type of violence against people in Washington, D.C. will not be tolerated.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi joined world leaders in congratulating Trump. In a series of tweets, Prime Minister Modi said he looked forward to working with President Trump to further deepen India-US ties and realize the full potential of our cooperation. Meanwhile, US President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence waved goodbye as the Obamas and Bidens left the Capitol. Trump supporters were inspired and encouraged by the tone the new US president took shortly after being sworn into office. Shortly after the ceremony, Trump was seen signing his first official actions as the 45th president. He sent his cabinet nominations to the Senate as well as a signed proclamation for a National Day of Patriotism. Trump takes power at a time when the country appears to be deeply divided. He enters the presidency with historically low approval ratings. Trump has vowed to roll back many of his predecessors' policies, including repealing Obama's signature healthcare law and building a wall along the US-Mexico border. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
So let's break down what is the first day, of course, of President Obama and, of course, what it means for India. We did, of course, see Narendra Modi congratulating him on Twitter. But apart from that, what else can Indians expect from the new US administration? We've got KP Nayar, who's the consulting editor with the Telegraph, joining us right now with me here. First of all, let's talk about the speech. What did you think about it? The inauguration in itself, we did talk about how the campaign has been, controversial, but the inauguration day itself was controversial. About 270 people were arrested in anti-Trump protests. But apart from that, just the day itself, what were your insights from that?
You see, Trump's problem in functioning as president was encapsulated in his speech itself and the reactions to the speech. Those who are opposed to him remarked that, this man has not changed since the election campaign. He's still the same man, divisive, critical, graceless. But his supporters on the National Mall, they also said the same thing and they were happy precisely because of that. They said, this man has not changed, he's still the same, So it's very, the two views are irreconcilable. And already that is creating problems. I mean, there was a mention in your correspondence report about Trump signing the cabinet appointments. What many people don't realize is that probably for the first time, when Trump was sworn in yesterday, for the first time, he was sworn in alone, in the sense that there was not a single cabinet nominee who had been cleared by the Senate. It was actually during the lunch in the Statuary Hall after the swearing in that a deal was worked out with Charles Schumer, the Senate leader of the Democrats, to clear 2 nominees. The Homeland Security Chief and Defense Secretary. And Schumer agreed to clear them only because they were generals who had served under Obama and Bush, you know. They were non-controversial people. I mean, for the first, how can you have the world's most powerful country not having a Secretary of State? There's no Secretary of State. There is no CIA Director. There is no Treasury Secretary. There is no Health and Human Services Secretary. Only these 2 generals. Actually, it is just like a Chief Minister being sworn in a state and having 1 or 2 ministers, no cabinet, you know. So his problems are going to be enormous. And it was shown on the first day itself that is probably the most significant thing about the inauguration of the 45th president.
And, that is a message that goes out not just to Americans, but the people watching as well across the world, leaders as well. The kind of person that Trump has been, he has really picked on fights, even on Twitter. Trolls. He takes them on and he goes on and on with it. And that is one of the criticisms that even the Clinton campaign had, that he goes on with tiny things, petty things, and that is what he takes upon. And how is he going to rule a country that also of the stature of the United States of America? How do you think the world is viewing him? We do know, of course, Russia is head over heels in love with him at the moment. Of course, Putin is. But apart from that, how are the other countries viewing it?
Well, you mentioned about the pettiness. That was also shown on the inauguration day. I do not recall any victor, any president not having praised his defeated opponent in the speech. He made no reference to Hillary Clinton, you know. But there is, I think, hope, because somebody obviously told him immediately after that it was graceless, especially because Hillary was there. Because in the lunch, he mentioned, you know. So he is showing that he is open to correction. But as far as other countries are concerned, we are particularly concerned about India. Contrary to the pessimistic predictions, I don't think we have to worry, you know, because in the United States there is bipartisan support for India. And the President of the United States is not all that powerful in decision making as it is made out to be. A lot of things have to be done in the Congress. And in the Congress, there is widespread support for India. In the House, for example, the Indian caucus is the biggest caucus, you know. And
his closeness to Shalabh Kumar, the Indian businessman, of course, who's been leading the Indian delegation there, for Donald Trump. His closeness to him as well, that is being seen as perhaps, something which perhaps an Obama didn't have, or for that matter, even a Bush didn't have.
I don't want to make personal remarks about individuals, but I think Shalabh Kumar factor is very highly exaggerated, you know. I mean, he is a very good media manager, so he has been able to get some publicity in India. But Indians
as far as policies is concerned, he's not going to have a say.
Exactly, but the government-to-government relations, from what I know, I mean, the government of India doesn't want to publicize much, but my understanding is that the government has established very good contacts, and Trump has been positive during the transition phase towards India as far as policy is concerned. So I don't think India has much to worry about. Of course, small irritants will be there about H-1B visa and all that, but then we must also take into account the fact that H-1B visas are in fact a lot, there have been a lot of misuse of it by, I'm not talking about our companies, you know, people who are engaged in body shopping, like they're sending workers to the Gulf. So correction to the H-1B program perhaps will be good for us in the long run.
All right. Mr. Nayar, thanks so much for joining us. And like you're pointing out, of course, everyone's, of course, critical and still apprehensive about what kind of a president he's going to be. But like you're pointing out, and there's a lot of political experts here as well saying that he may not be as bad for India as at least the Americans are portraying how bad he is for the country there. Thanks so much for joining us. With that, of course, we'll take a quick break here. Still to come, authorities have suspended the search for the ill-fated Malaysian Airlines flight MH370. The plane with over 200 people on board disappeared en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing in 2014. That and much more on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the underwater search for missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 has come to an end, with passengers' families informed that the effort to find the plane has been suspended. Next of kin were told in an email statement on Tuesday that Australian authorities' underwater search of the 120,000 square kilometers in the southern Indian Ocean had concluded without success after nearly 3 years.
Australia, China and Malaysia announced the suspension of the search for Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 nearly 3 years after the plane vanished without a trace over the Indian Ocean. Officials from those nations had been leading the search for MH370, which disappeared en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing on March 8, 2014, with 239 people on board. The countries on Tuesday issued a joint statement announcing the suspension.
We are actually towards the end of the search area of 120,000 square kilometer. So I would like to confirm that the vessel will leave the search area by today. So that means they have completed the 120,000 search area, and we need to suspend the search until further credible evidence.
Meanwhile, Australia's Transport Minister said the search for flight MH370 could resume in the future, but only if credible new evidence emerges.
We don't rule out a future underwater search. What I'm simply saying is today the commitment to the 120,000 square kilometre search area has been completed. Fugro Equator is returning to port and the search will be suspended in terms of the underwater effort. As the ATSB chief has just pointed out, there's other work going on land in relation to more detailed analysis of drift patterns and further, if more debris comes to light in the weeks and months ahead, it'll be a question of working with Malaysia, working with our experts on any further analysis.
Relatives of the victims on Tuesday criticised the decision to halt the search as irresponsible. Voice 370, a family support group, said finding the Malaysian airliner was an inescapable duty owed to the flying public, and the search must continue in the newly identified area.
I feel a bit disappointed of the statements that's being released yesterday because the aircraft cannot be found in the priority area, and according to the statement, the authorities remain hopeful that new information will come up in future. So for me, it is as good as not doing anything but waiting for new information.
The plane carrying 239 people vanished on March 8, 2014 while travelling from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. There were 14 nationalities among the 227 passengers and 12 crew members on board the plane. The majority, 153 people, were Chinese. A report in November 2016 said the plane had probably made a high and increasing rate of descent into the Indian Ocean. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now to Nigeria, where the Air Force killed at least 50 people and injured 120 in an airstrike on a camp for displaced persons in the northeast of the country on Tuesday. The military said that the strike had targeted the Boko Haram. The strike occurred in Ran in Borno State, the epicenter of the jihadist group bid to create an Islamic caliphate. Here's a report.
The killing of civilians by the Nigerian Air Force in an airstrike targeting Boko Haram militants has triggered outrage and questions among residents in the West African country. Médecins Sans Frontières said on Tuesday that at least 50 people were killed and 120 more were injured when a Nigerian airstrike hit a refugee camp in the country's northeast after the military earlier disclosed the strike was meant to target Boko Haram militants.
Today at 12:20 there was aerial bombardment in Ran, which took place in a very densely populated area. It killed 50 people. Ran city has been under the control of the army since several months, and in the city of Ran there's also a number of people who have fled the conflict, who are displaced, who have been finding shelter there.
MSF said that the strike occurred in Ran in Borno State, the epicenter of the jihadist group's 7-year-long bid to create an Islamic caliphate. Nigerian General Lucky Irabor, a regional military commander, located the incident at Kala Balje, a district that includes Ran.
We got the coordinates, and I directed that the air should go to address the problem.
On Wednesday, Nigerians expressed disbelief and outrage over the airstrike.
This happening to them is very, very unfortunate. So I'm not happy about it. Our government should be able to protect us as an individual.
This country, the way it's going now, people are not smiling. People are not smiling anymore. Youth are hungry. You will see what will happen in 2019.
The strike came amid an offensive against Boko Haram by Nigeria's military over the last few weeks. Boko Haram has stepped up attacks in the last few weeks as the end of the rainy season has enabled its fighters to move more easily in the bush. The insurgency has killed more than 15,000 people and forced 2 million to flee their homes, many of whom have moved to camps because it has been too dangerous to return home. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, China has sent out a stern message to the United States regarding the One China policy, saying that it was non-negotiable and that any attempt to reconsider the issue could harm ties between the two countries. US President Donald Trump had, in fact, on Friday, had once again angered Beijing, saying that the policy was up for negotiations.
A day after telling the US that One China policy was non-negotiable, China on Monday reiterated its stance, saying that the policy principles were the political foundation of bilateral ties and any attempt to reconsider the issue could harm them. Sending out a warning, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said Taiwan may be sacrificed if Donald Trump continued to provoke Beijing.
If anyone attempts to damage the One China principle, or if they are under the illusion they can use this as a bargaining chip, they will be firmly and widely opposed by the Chinese government, people and the international community.
China's strong reaction comes after Donald Trump last week said that One China policy was up for negotiation. This is the second time in a month that Beijing has reacted angrily after Trump broke decades of precedent by taking a congratulatory telephone call from the Taiwanese president. Meanwhile, Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen, who was in San Francisco for a business meet, faced protests outside her hotel. China fears that Taiwan is seeking formal independence from the mainland.
I come here to protest against Tsai Ing-wen. She wants to separate Taiwan from China, and we're very much against it. We think that China should be united as one country, not as two.
The United States had switched diplomatic recognition from Taipei to Beijing in 1979. Since then, it has acknowledged the Chinese position that there is only one China and that Taiwan is part of it. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And much else has unfolded around the world this week. Here's a roundup of the other international news in Global Watch.
On the final day of the 47th World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos, UK Chancellor of the Exchequer Philip Hammond called for a close partnership with the European Union post-Brexit. Hammond called for close relations not only on trade but also on security and a host of other issues. Over 2,500 leaders from business, government, international organizations, civil society, media and the arts took part in the meeting convened under the theme Responsive and Responsible Leadership. The Turkish police on Tuesday arrested the main suspect in the New Year's Eve attack on an exclusive nightclub in Istanbul after a huge manhunt. Abdulkadir Masharipov is believed to have mounted the assault on the Vienna club, which left 39 people dead. Citizens of Israel, France, Tunisia, Lebanon, India, Belgium, Jordan and Saudi Arabia were among the victims. The Islamic State militant group claimed that it was behind the attack and said it was a revenge for Turkish military involvement in Syria. At least 20 people were killed and 50 others injured in a blast at a vegetable market in northwest Pakistan's restive Kurram Valley. The blast took place at the crowded Sabzi Mandi inside Eidgah Bazaar in Parachinar, the administrative headquarters of the agency near the Afghan border. Initial reports suggest that explosives kept in vegetable crates exploded during auction of the vegetables. Rescuers in central Italy found 10 survivors after an avalanche buried a mounted hotel. 4 children and a woman were pulled out of the snow that smothered the Rigopiano Hotel in the Abruzzo region on Wednesday following several earthquakes. At least 4 people died and about 20 went missing. The rescue work was hampered by deep snow blocking an access road. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And let's now shift focus and bring you up to speed with all the sports news you missed in Sports Action.
Defending champion Novak Djokovic suffered a shock defeat by world number 117 Denis Istomin in the second round of the Australian Open. The six-time champion struggled for consistency and lost 7-6, 5-7, 2-6, 7-6, 6-4 in 4 hours and 48 minutes. It is the first time Djokovic has lost in the second round of a Grand Slam since 2008 at Wimbledon. It is also only the second time in 7 years that Djokovic has lost to a player ranked outside the top 100. His defeat by Juan Martín del Potro, ranked 145th at the Rio Olympics in 2016, the other occasion. The 10 starting players for the 2017 NBA All-Star Game were revealed late on Thursday. Getting the nod in the West starting five were Warriors teammates Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, James Harden of the Houston Rockets, San Antonio Spurs forward Kawhi Leonard, and New Orleans Pelicans center Anthony Davis. The East starters are Cleveland Cavaliers teammates Kyrie Irving and LeBron James, Jimmy Butler of the Chicago Bulls, Milwaukee Bucks phenom Giannis Antetokounmpo and DeMar DeRozan of the Toronto Raptors. Manchester United generated the most revenue of any football club in the world last season, according to a report published by Deloitte. United dethroned Real Madrid to hold top spot for 11 years after accumulating a record revenue of €689 million during the 2015-16 term. The Premier League club saw commercial revenue grow by €100 million. Combined revenue for the top 20 clubs during the 2015-16 season grew 12% to €7.4 billion, a new record. Real dropped down to third behind Spanish rivals Barcelona, who remained in second spot. After surrendering a record 40-game unbeaten run, Real Madrid suffered a second defeat in 4 days on Wednesday as Celta Vigo took a 2-1 first-leg lead from their Copa del Rey quarter-final at the Santiago Bernabéu. All 3 goals came in a 6-minute spell midway through the second half as strikes from former Liverpool striker Iago Aspas and Johnny, either side of Marcelo's reply for Madrid, handed Celta a famous win. Real can still salvage their quest for a first-ever treble of Cup, La Liga and Champions League, but now need to score at least twice when they visit Barbados for the second leg on January 25th. Formula One's governing body, the International Automobile Federation, on Wednesday said it had approved Liberty Media's $8 billion takeover of the sport. The deal involves a transfer of 100% of the shares in Delta Topco, in which FIA has a 1% stake, to Liberty Media Group. The decision had been a formality after Liberty Media shareholders had approved the deal, first mooted in September on Tuesday. The transaction means control of the sport passes to the group of billionaire John Malone.
And finally, Bassi, the world's oldest panda in captivity, celebrated her 37th birthday on the 18th of January in southern China's Fujian province. Bassi is the inspiration for Pan Pan, the mascot for the 1990 Beijing Asian Games. Panda fans from all across the world, including the UK, Switzerland and Japan, came to Fuzhou Panda World to attend the celebrations. I'm going to leave you with these visuals from China. See you again next week.